Rather than eating the chocolate, eat some fruit. Eat some fruit. Welcome back to Seriously Funny. I'm your host, Mashnor Kabir, and I have a way with words. So, microphone's in a bit of a different position today. I wanted it to be that way, so hopefully it doesn't sound too different, but we'll see. It'll be a good old experiment to see how much the microphone position actually changes the sound. And so if it changes it too much, well, that's your... I'm kidding. But I recorded 3 episodes within the past week, and I recorded 2 YouTube videos, and all of those episodes were scripted, edited, and written. Wait, scripted, written, that's the same thing. And recorded, all done. Actually, one of the YouTube videos aren't edited, just scripted and recorded. But I have done a lot of writing and a ton of creative work this week, so I didn't really feel like, and I didn't have the creative drive to come up with a topic and script out another one. However, don't worry, we're not going to go scriptless again. Not going to do that, because the last time we did that, I was talking about how I was sad. And so this time, I'm not sad, I'm just lazy and a little bit burnt. So, man, busy week. But I have a script that I wrote for Listenable. I think I told this story, but I'll tell it again. Over winter break, I was like, yo, let me just do research on something else. And so I didn't want to do research on one topic, like with ultimate like depth, like I did with sleep. It's just doing that with sleep. I realized how much work it really is, and I didn't. That's like a summer project sort of thing, right? And so I didn't want to do that. And now what I did was I researched a bunch of things for 5 simple habits to live a better life. And I researched that like with some depth. If you remember my episode on levels of proficiency and expertise, go watch that one or listen to that one. There's nothing to watch. I didn't have a video back then. If you remember that episode, and if you haven't listened to it, or you just don't remember, go listen to it again. Really great episode. That was one of my favorites. But in that episode, probably like a proficiency 1 or 2 is what I hit for these things that I researched here over winter break. And I made a course. I really researched it to make another course for Listenable, get another few bucks from it, a good little side thing. And I just like researching things, and it would let me get paid for at least a little bit for some of the time I put in. And so I sent Listenable an email after I had researched everything, wrote the scripts, and then I also recorded them. I didn't edit them, but I recorded them. And so then I sent them an email saying, this is everything I have. Here's the research, here's the scripts, and I have the audio. Can we set up, or can I submit another course, and I'll get it to you within probably a week, since I already recorded it. All I have to do is go edit it, remove some of the blank space, remove my breathing, which I don't do for this podcast because it would take way too long, and for some reason Final Cut doesn't have some sort of built-in thing, and I don't want to pay $500 for a vocal software just so I can remove my breathing, okay? So you're just going to have to listen to me breathe, sorry. But I did all that, sent them the email. They got back to me a week later, and they said, we're not accepting courses right now. And so I did all that work for absolutely nothing, and I have yet to record a podcast episode on any of it. And so here, I'm not going to get through all 7 of the lessons that I have, so I'll finish this up next week. I'll go through like half of it this week and half of it next week. I'm going to hard stop at 20 minutes because, again, I'm lazy, and I want to be lazy next week as well. So what I'm probably going to do, there's a wedding in a few weeks. I probably won't make it, but I want to. I want to try. And so what I'm going to do, because school hates me, is next week I'm going to record the rest of whatever I start here and don't finish. And then maybe I'll go on some tangents next week if I have extra time on going a little bit more in depth into some of these things and the philosophical parts of them, because I'll just focus on more or less the science and what I have written here. And so I'll do that next week. But next week I will also write a script, and then I'll just have an extra one. And maybe next week as well, I'll record both of them, and then I'll just schedule it for when I have to schedule it, so that I'm a week ahead of schedule. And I don't want to use my Volt episodes when I know that I'm not going to be able to record. Those are for emergencies, not for going on break. Those are just literally if I'm unable to suddenly. So I'm not going to use those. I don't want to use those. I'm going to keep those in the vault. And one of them is really, really good. So you better hope that one day there's an emergency that lets you hear those effing episodes, let me tell you. So that's what we're going to do today. I'm just going to go through some of the things I have here. So this is my course for Listenable, 5 Simple Habits for a Better Life. I'm probably going to read the script for these more or less, and then I'll try my best to make it a little bit normalized. But remember, this is a script, or not a script. This is a script made for a course for a company that, it's a self-help based sort of company. And so the writing here and the way that I write things, and I'll show you in a second, the way that I write things here, very different than the scripts I write. There are no jokes in this whatsoever. There's no memes. I wanted there to be some more, but I didn't do it just because I'm like, I want to be a little bit more professional when I make something for a company. And so that's if it's a little bit drier than usual, if it's a little bit more serious than funny today, which, how funny am I really? Let's all be honest. I hate, so sad. But, I will, how do you say, I'll try to interject some jokes here and there if I can, right? But here, this is what it sounds like. So this is when I record for Listenable, or when I did record, if you didn't listen to my Listenable thing on sleep, when I recorded, this is the voice. So this is how I talk. I have a few voices. Let me take you through them, okay? So this is one of the voices, right? This is kind of what I use normally, or I used to. I've been changing because I don't really want to use this anymore because it's not really my voice. This is just a simple one. This is pretty high, upbeat, a little bit more. I can add a bit more changes in pitch to this one, and so it helps me a lot with just coming off in a very specific way. And then this is my normal voice. It's a lot more deep, a lot more depth. The projection is similar, but the gain is lower, similar to this SM7B. It really brings up those low ends on the voices, but the gain on this microphone is not high, and so it's similar there. It's very, very nice and rich and soothing. However, it's not very loud, and I have to push a lot more air out of my mouth to make it loud. Because if I didn't, I would just sound like this, and you wouldn't be able to hear me at all, and no one would be able to hear me at all, and it would be kind of a bit of an issue, right? And so I breathe a little bit more when I'm, speaking in a normal voice because I'm trying to push so much out. But, this is just my voice, really basic. If I'm tired and you're talking to me and I'm not willing to up my voice or anything, this is what I sound like, and this is what I started the podcast off of because it is soothing, and I enjoy listening to it. Most people can't stand the sound of their own voice. I'm a narcissistic a-hole, and I love the sound of my voice. But, and I know that if I'm editing an episode of this podcast and I don't want to hear my voice, I know it's probably not great. But yeah, this is my voice. And then I have another voice. I have one more that you hear sometimes in my perorations, but it's a really soft, slow speaking voice that I use, especially for when I used to help people like mentally. I would just do that with people I knew and friends, people who didn't want to go to therapy or couldn't afford it or something. And I was like, well, I can't just leave you sad by yourself. So, I'll help you out a bit. And so this is the voice I would speak in if I was trying to get through to them, or if I was trying to inspire them, or they were in a bad place and I was trying to uplift them a little bit. And so this is the voice I record in for Listenable, and here it is. Hey, I'm Mashnor Kabir. Welcome to the course 5 Simple Habits for a Better Life on Listenable. In this course, I wanted to share with you 5 of the simplest and most powerful habits that I've found over the course of my life. The habits that I share with you in this course won't make you rich. They won't make you superhuman. What they will do is give you a better baseline. Following these habits here won't cure all of your problems, unfortunately. I can't do that. What these habits will do is make it so that when problems do inevitably come up, you're better equipped to calmly and effectively respond to the problem. And we'll start with willpower. And so this is that. I really enjoy that voice. I really don't use it very much because it's such a niche voice. It's very specific in when I will use it, right? And it's really inspired by Fred Rogers. I listened to a podcast, I think 1 or 2 years ago now, called Finding Fred. And I learned about Fred Rogers. He was a little bit before my time as a child, so I didn't see him on TV. But when I saw this guy, he would talk really, really slowly. And it was really interesting. And I really liked it. And the way that he lived his life, the way that he did things, the way that he spoke to people, and that he was able to speak to people. As a writer and a speaker myself, and a podcaster, I really appreciate that, and I can find a lot of nuances in how people convey themselves, the way and the mannerisms in which people speak. And so I really appreciated the way that he went about it, and the way that he recorded and he spoke, and the way that he presented himself in the manner of speaking. He was really good at it. He was very good at it. Some people are just on another chart and level of being able to convey themselves. Even me, I say but too much. Like, there's a few things I say too much, but some people, they're just able to speak. Nothing is said too much. Nothing is used as crutch words. Nothing is used as space filler. It's just beautiful, silk, smooth speaking every time. And some people made fun of him for how he spoke, but I mean, he resonated with so many people, and a lot of people, especially foreign countries and stuff, it helped them learn English when they immigrated here to America, especially, which was even bigger back then when he was around. And so that was really helpful for a ton of people, and everyone loved this guy, and for good reason. He was really, really good at what he did. But this slow speaking, it was kind of inspired by that. I wanted a voice, a way to talk that was very effective and very easy to understand, a little bit more enunciated, because usually when I talk, my words kind of mumble together, they jumble together. I'm a mumbler. I don't like moving my tongue because I'm lazy. And so half the time my tongue is like stuck on one part of my mouth and I'm not moving it very much at all. And so, I mean, you can probably see that, right? When you see me talk, like, there's not very complex movement in my tongue. It goes up and down. It just goes up and down. It's not really, oh, I'm going to enunciate these words so absolutely and beautifully perfectly. It's like, I'm going to enunciate words. That's how I talk. I'm a mumbler. Maybe it's one of the reasons I listen to mumble rap. Who knows, right? So I mumble. And I've filled out so much time. And I'm going to hit 20 minutes just talking about nothing. I'm okay with that, honestly. But I'm just one episode. This is one episode. I mean, I'll get you something, even if I have to hit 30 minutes for you. But yeah, I should. Anyways, that's I don't know. Sometimes I just get on this podcast and I'm like, you know what? I have a podcast. I just want to talk. Let me just talk. And so maybe I shouldn't do that. 70% of the reason I record this podcast, yes, there is like that 30% that's like, oh, these are all the pieces to happiness. If you listen to what I'm saying and you actually implement it in your own life, you'll be a bit happier. And that's true. But I understand that most people listen to this because my voice sounds nice. One of the reasons I want you to share this podcast is not because the advice is good. It's because I sound good. And so that's the biggest reason I think that anyone listens to this. Even if I listen to my own podcast, I don't do it too often. I'm not that vain because I already edit it. But if I do ever listen to my own podcast, I'm just like, yo, it sounds nice. That's it. And maybe I'll add some background music soon. I'm thinking about that. So maybe I'll do that. But for now, yeah, maybe bits and pieces here in this script. I'll introduce my self-help speaking voice, that slow one, that really nice one. It's really smooth and soft, I think. I really like that one. But, here, let's actually talk. What did I say? Yeah, I said we'll start with willpower. So that's the first thing that I went to talk about. Obviously, I had 5 habits. That's the title of the effing lessons here, the course that I was making. But I needed to have 7 lessons at like minimum. So I don't remember if I ended up with 7 or 8, but I need to have at least 7 episodes. So the first 2 aren't habits. They're more so understanding habits a little bit and implementing habits a little bit. And so the first thing that we're going to talk about here is willpower. This episode is going to get rehashed with probably more specific studies. And I'm going to go further into the idea of it probably, because it's just such a great topic. And why did I suddenly get darker? Does this help? Yeah, that helps, I guess, a little bit. But this is a great topic that I want to continue to explore as we go on. I understand that not everyone listens to every episode, and that's one of the reasons that I recycle content. I don't just do it because I'm a creative I'm just a mid-tier creator, which, I mean, I would love to be a mid-tier creator. Please subscribe. But so, all right, willpower is something that you've undoubtedly heard of. It's the ability you have to resist any and all temptation and always be productive. Always do the quote-unquote right thing, forcing yourself down the better path. The ability to eat celery instead of Oreos, the ability to go to the gym instead of laying in bed for another hour, the ability to pick up a book instead of Netflix. What if I told you that you weren't just lazy, that every time you chose the Oreos, the bed, Netflix, that it wasn't simply a lapse in your choices, rather a natural decline in your self-control? I wonder if I made a YouTube video on this. You know what? It's a podcast. I'm going to go ahead and open up my YouTube channel here. Oh, also, I'm not sure if I ever actually mentioned this on the podcast. The name of my other YouTube channel, although you can find it anywhere, is how do you say? It's Mashnur Kabir. How do you say my name? Yeah, so Mashnur Kabir. That's my other YouTube channel. It's a picture of me in a nice suit and tie with my head tilted, and I look very sad. I don't look sad, but I have a very serious face. Okay, very serious face. It doesn't look like that exactly, but no smile on my face. I did do that. This video I made, there's 20 views, huh? How to achieve your goals. This is a horrible title. Why did I do that? Anyways, that video needs to get remade. I should just take the same thumbnail and re-upload the video. That would be a not bad idea, to be honest, but yeah, anyway, I made a YouTube video on this, but here's the podcast because I never did that. But yeah, willpower is that thing, that ability to force yourself to do something, to force yourself to do work. Like I said, Oreos or celery instead of Oreos, gym instead of laying in bed, getting out of bed instead of watching anime, which I don't think that's a lapse in willpower because I want to watch the anime. But, the ability to pick up a book instead of Netflix. You know what willpower is, right? You've probably heard it. Just pick yourself up by your bootstraps and get out there and just get a job and get work and just walk in there and say, "Give me a shot, boss." Right? And so this is I think that's the first time I ever did that accent on the podcast. This mic is so easy to hold. This microphone is so great to just grab and manhandle. In a study with 67 participants, I remember when I was recording the YouTube video for this also took me 30 minutes to pronounce correctly. I remember I should have wrote the title of the paper here. You can just Google the study. It was something about willpower being willpower magic. Okay, yeah. In a study with 67 participants, Roy Baumeister and colleagues had participants avoid food for 3 hours before having them go into a room that smelled like freshly baked chocolate chip cookies. So you can Google Roy Baumeister, Roy Baumeister, and chocolate chip cookies willpower. You can just throw the keywords into Google. You should find actually, I don't know if this paper is publicly available, so if you're not part of an institution or you're not paying for some of these journals, it might be you might not have full access, but you'll find the paper in the abstract if nothing else. Do I want to do the work to... You know what? Just since I'm being so lazy on this episode, I will go ahead and throw the sources in the description. I'll find them again. I'll put them in the description. So if you want to look into them, it's going to be in the description. But yeah, so 67 participants, and they baked cookies in a room, and they starved all 67 of the participants, no eating, 3 hours before coming into this room that smelled like really good effing chocolate chip cookies. Okay, scientists cook. Let me tell you. Scientists cook. But yeah, so anyways, each participant went to their own table, and on this table was 1 plate of cookies, 1 plate of radishes. One group was assigned to eat a few radishes, another group the cookies. And the control group could do whatever they wanted. So 3 groups: 1, you have to eat a few radishes; 1, you have to eat a few cookies. I know, have to eat cookies, crazy. What a torture device. And then the third group, you could do whatever you want. You want to eat 2 cookies, 1 radish, do what you want, not my problem. That's the control group. And so They did whatever they want. So they were all then, after they ate whatever they were assigned to or whatever they wanted to, they were all then given a puzzle that was deliberately and unbeknownst to the participants, unsolvable. You could not solve this puzzle. It was literally just an impossible thing. You can't do it. And so I think it was a geometry one. I don't know. It's in the paper if you find it. But the researchers then measured how long it would take each participant to give up on that puzzle. Obviously, all of them are going to have to give up at some point. Am I yellow? Why am I yellow? Is that the sun's fault? I should be a color of, I'm brown, but that's like a shade of orange, at least according to Photoshop and Lightroom. Why? What am I doing? And so, all right, this episode is literally just going to be me talking about my voice and talking about willpower. So yeah, I'm not going to go to this. Maybe fine, I'll do it. Fine, I'll edit another 40 effing minute episode for you. God, I have to study for an exam today. But yeah, okay. So researchers measured how long it would take the participants to give up. I just need to give up on their unsolvable puzzle, and yeah, again, the puzzle, you had to give up because you couldn't succeed. It was literally just impossible. Maybe they just brought in some like mathematical genius that found some way, but not possible. So on average, the radish group gave up after 8 minutes, the cookie group about, I don't have enough fingers for 19 minutes, and then the control group, who could do whatever they wanted, 21 minutes. And so you can see the lines there, or the line. The data points. That's nearly a 10-minute difference between the radish group and the cookie group. And those numbers are a little bit more specific. I rounded. The theory the researchers proposed was that extending willpower depleted the participants' finite pool of willpower, making it so that they didn't have as much to spend on the puzzle. So, if you had to avoid eating the cookies, which your body probably wanted to do, and you had to force yourself to eat the radishes, that required willpower. So let's say this is your willpower meter. You have to eat radishes. Willpower goes down to here. And then when you go to do the puzzle, your willpower to continue doing the puzzle, you only have this much left. However, if you were told that you had to eat cookies, they told you have to eat cookies. So you had to. You felt a little bit of pressure, so willpower goes down about this much, and then you have this much to spend on solving the puzzle. And so that's why that was the hypothesis of the researchers. That's why they proposed, that was their idea for why this difference in time existed, but so greatly between the radish group and the cookie group. And so the idea of willpower being a finite resource is called ego depletion in research. If you want to research into more, if you want to research this, if you want to go further into this research, then you go to Google, type in ego depletion, and you'll find papers on that. But you might think, well, how then do people ever avoid temptation? And this is a great question. If willpower is finite and you can run out of it throughout the day, how do you effectively avoid temptation? How do you effectively avoid the Oreos, your bed, and your bed, God dang it. Your bed, I swear it's not a green screen. Your bed and Netflix. How do you avoid all of these things? So in another study with 205 participants, researchers had a beeper that would beep at random times throughout the day and asked the participants if they were avoiding a temptation, how strong that temptation was, and whether or not they successfully avoided it. The more often and the stronger the temptations that a participant avoided in the day made them more likely, or in the day made them more likely to give in to a temptation later in the day. So if you were avoiding temptation at 9 a.m. in the morning, you're more likely to fall victim to a temptation at 3 p.m. in the afternoon. And so, however, there were some people that reported before the study that they felt like, they self-reported that they were really good at resisting temptations. They were honking their own horn a little bit in like a survey that was given before the study to all 205 participants. And so what the researchers found was that the people who reported that, they weren't exactly lying. They were, however, in the actual study with the beeper, they reported fewer instances of temptation throughout the day. What this means is that the people that reported being less liable to falling to temptation didn't even have to resist temptation. The reason that they're so good at it was because they didn't have to do it. And so to further this point, and it's really easy, right? To further this point, the last study is one on 150 university students, that's me, that found that I wasn't in this study, that found that people exerted more self-control and more willpower weren't actually more successful at achieving their goals. Rather, it was the people that had good structure in their day, a plan that they had already laid out, that were the most successful at meeting their goals. In other words, the people that didn't need to use willpower performed the best. So what does all of this matter? The course is, this course is about habits. This isn't a course. This episode is about nothing. It's about my voice, apparently. But it's important to understand that willpower isn't reliable. I don't want to give you tips or habits that you simply can't incorporate into your life. Although it's effective or it's attractive to have the mental fortitude of the Great Pyramids, it's much easier to create a life where it's just not necessary to resist temptation. Just don't worry about being this temptation-resisting God. Worry about this is the first time that I'm going to tell you, just run away from the problem. Don't solve the problem, run away from it. Don't resist temptation, just run away from the temptation. Okay, leave, get out of the building. Okay, might fall. And so, if you had a bag of chips and a bunch of carrots in front of you, which one would you probably reach for? I mean, rather than straining, ourselves to grab the healthier option, rather than saying, you should probably eat the carrots, even though carrots taste like garbage. And what if we made it easier by just never buying the chips in the first place? What if we didn't buy the chips, if they weren't even in our house, if they weren't even an option on the test, then you don't have to pick it. You don't even have to think about picking it. It's just not a thought anymore. Then you automatically get the carrots because it's the only thing that's there. It's the only option you have. And so then you go for the healthier option and you don't have to work for it. So, the next thing I have, the second lesson was keystone habits. And so I'll finish this keystone habits thing and then wrap up this episode when I get to the actual advice, because I spend so much time talking about my voice. Which I'm sure that you enjoyed. I not only have coffee today, but I have strawberries. See that? Strawberries. Very nice, huh? It's going to be a thumbnail. I'm going to pose with those strawberries. I'm going to eat them all right now. I wonder if I kept that in. That'd be so good. Okay, lesson 2. This lesson starts with showing my work. The term keystone habits. The term keystone habits comes from a book that I highly recommend. The Power of Habit. I'm not going to pull it out. The Power of Habit. Why? I got it. I got this. Third try, third time's a charm. We're going to do this, right? Ready? We're going to do it in the soft voice too. I got you. The Power of Habit, Why We Do What We Do in Life and Business by Charles Duhigg. In the book, Duhigg talks about, of course, habits. And for us, since I'll be sharing 5 habits you can use to improve your life, it's important to be able to actually build and apply these habits. Duhigg writes on page 100, at least in my book, different publishers have different page numbers, quote, "Some habits, in other words, matter more than others in remaking businesses and lives. These are, quote, keystone habits, end quote, and they can influence how people work, eat, play, live, spend, and communicate. Keystone habits start a process that, over time, transforms everything," end quote. The 5 habits that I'll be sharing with you over this course that you'll be getting, next episode, I guess, then I can clickbait title that one a little bit more. The 5 habits that I'll be sharing with you in this course are keystone habits. And as we talked about in the previous lesson, I only have 3 papers to source. That is making my life so much easier because this is just a book. As we talked about in the previous little thing, the willpower thing that I talked about a second ago, the best way to create change in your life, in my life, in our lives, isn't to forcefully shove a new habit in there. Just stick it in. I don't want this lesson to be like a New Year's resolution that dissolves in a few weeks, okay? Then I said this really great thing about Listenable that I'm not going to say here because they rejected me. So with that in mind, I want to give you 3 key tips, okay? 3 to help you form the latter mentioned habits, right? The ones that stick. And so the first tip draws from the last thing that I just said about willpower. Don't force these changes into your lives or life. We learned that willpower isn't a great method of creating change in our lives. Rather, automation, in the sense of our days and our actions, is a much more effective and successful way to create lasting change. And the way to do this is by first creating a plan, sitting down and writing in your bullet journal, your notes app, or for me, my Notion, a list of things that you want to get done the next day. A lot of us fall into the trap of trying to remember what we need to get done in the day. And oftentimes in the moment we are relaxed, we'll suddenly remember something that we forgot. But now that we're relaxed, we just don't want to do it anymore. So, and if you do, you have to extend that willpower that we learned about. So giving an example, let's say that you told yourself you were going to do some sort of like small homework, like a quiz for a class, okay, that takes like 20 minutes. Told yourself you were going to do it. And then throughout the day, you just kind of forgot. You got busy with other things that you had to do a little bit more, and priority was there a bit more. And then you go to bed, and you're going to bed. You're laying there watching your anime, reading your effing manhwa, and then you realize when you're sitting there and you're super relaxed and you feel great, holy crap, I had to do that effing quiz. Whoops. But now you're like already in bed, halfway through the anime episode, halfway through the chapter of the manhwa. You don't really want to get up anymore. And so in that situation, if you do get up, or if you do force yourself to get up, then you are you're forcing yourself, right? You're extending willpower. And again, we don't want to do that. There's something on my screen and it's bothering me. All right, there we go. So much better. And so that would extend willpower. And we don't want to do that because, as we learned, that doesn't work. Having things planned out beforehand or having a simple to-do list that you made beforehand will take a lot of mental effort out of and a lot of willpower just out of the day. So I use Notion to set up my day, to set up what I'm going to do, to set up how, the order maybe. I don't usually go that far. I don't really plan my day out hour by hour, but I use Notion to do everything, and I'm probably going to need to make another Notion tutorial because it gets good views on YouTube, and sometimes you just have to do the content that people want. And so the second tip, to make things easier, say you want to build a habit of running in the morning. If you put your running shoes in front of your bed before you go to sleep, then they'll be right there when you wake up. Maybe you have a hobby like playing the guitar and you'd like to do it more often. Making it easier for you to grab the guitar, even a small impedance like having to open the closet to get your guitar, or putting your running shoes out like in front of the door instead of in front of your bed, it will inhibit you from doing what you wanted to do. So make it easier to do what you want to do. Remove as many obstacles as you can. Sean Aker, the author of The Happiness Advantage and a Harvard psychologist, calls this the, quote, 20-second rule, end quote. By adding a mere 20 seconds to an action, you'll be deterred from doing it, which can be used for good. Say that you want to watch TV less and you want to read more books. Leave a book on or near the couch and take the batteries out of your TV remote and place them about 20 seconds away. You'll reach for the book way more often. Not from willpower, but because the remote won't work anyways. Don't force yourself to do things you know you should do. Make it easier to do the things that you know you should do. You shouldn't have to force it. You should kind of just do it. The third tip is to understand the habit cycle. Back to Duhigg's book, he writes that the habits, I've talked about this before, but I'm going to talk about it again because whatever. Like I said, recycling content, it's great for me, great for the people that didn't listen to the other episodes, great for everyone. So I'm going to talk about it again. It's made up of 3 parts: a cue, the urge to do something, a routine, the actual habit, and the reward, which is your neuro, bio, or psychological response to the habit. Habit. I know that this cycle is a touch different in Atomic Habits by James Clear, where he adds a 4th craving step between the cue and routine. So whichever one makes more sense to you, do that one. The way that you rewire your brain isn't by destroying it, rather replacing it. And this is done by changing the routine part of the habit. The way that we want to use this is by applying it to the other two tips. You likely can't change the cue when you have an urge to eat chocolate. You have an urge to eat chocolate, right? If it happens, it happens. What are you going to do about it? But you can change the behavior. Rather than eating the chocolate, eat some fruit. Eat some fruit. This episode's gonna be great. Eat some fruit. It still has sugar, so you'll get the reward, but it's quite a bit more healthy than the chocolate. We are, as James Williams, my bad, another Harvard professor and psychologist put it, quote, mere bundles of habits, end quote. Rather than using willpower and forcing things in our lives, we want to change the patterns, the routines, the habits that we follow on a day-to-day basis. And going forward, we'll be using the 3 tips I laid out in this lesson for building the 5 habits that, not this lesson, in this episode, going forward being next episode, that I laid out here for building the 5 habits that will instantly, that's definitely a claim, make your life better. And the first one is, you'll hear about it next week. I'm not giving that to you. I've been recording for nearly 40 minutes, but I have no outro. So what have I been reading? I started reading Omniscient Reader. It's a manhwa. I caught up to Oshinoko, and it's so good. I'm probably, one thing that's really hard to do, but I feel like is the best way to go about things, is just take a 1-year break from the manga or the manhwa, and that's a long time. But that's about 52 extra episodes, okay? So when you come back, you got a lot to come back to. Granted, you can run through 52 in like a day if you really put your mind to it. But I don't have time for that. I'm a college student. Anyways, yeah, so that's the manhwa I'm reading now, Omniscient Reader. I actually really, really like it. I thought there's a lot of things I want to be like Solo Leveling, but Omniscient Reader has just the right amount of humor, just the right amount of edginess, sometimes a little bit too much, but more or less it's fine, and I really like it. I think it's good. It's written well. The art is pretty good. The story is pretty good. Very nice. Super, super fun. Solo Leveling is still pretty unbeatable, except for it's kind of matched by Legend of the Northern Blade. That was a loud click. Legend of the Northern Blade. And so that one was really, 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 really good. But Solo Leveling was also really good. I don't know if anything will live up to those two. But the whatever I'm reading right now, Omniscient Reader, is it's really, really good. I'm going to give it a high recommend. I'm not done. I'm like not even halfway through. I'm like a third, not even third, a fourth, a fifth. Yeah, about a fifth to a fourth of the way through. And so, yeah, it's only like 90 chapters right now. It's not even a triple digits yet. But yeah, that's what I've been reading. As for what I've been watching, finished Demon Slayer, started watching Battle Game in 5 seconds. It's interesting. Yeah, it's interesting. You see, the yeah, don't watch it. Just don't watch it. Don't watch it. Okay, just don't do it. All right, don't waste your time. All right, there's much better action romance. Go watch Guilty Crown or something. Okay, just don't watch it. All right, that's my only review there. As for what I've been listening to, music, I started listening a lot to Eric Doa. I just went through his discography. I kind of knew I'd like him, but I like him. IFHY, which stands for I Effing Hate You, a really good song. His most recent one, Fool for Love, his most popular one, which is from an HBO TV show, apparently. Like, the guy's already on HBO, which is wild, good for him. Is Sad for What, I think it was called. All his songs are really short, but they're all really good. It kind of reminds, X sort of music. And so, yeah, that's kind of what I've been up to in terms of my media consumption. Trash Taste Podcast, that's a bit of media I've been consuming a lot of. But that's about all I think I have for you. I'm going to edit this, which is going to take me a while. Hopefully I can finish before 5. And then I'm going to go ahead and study for an exam that I have tomorrow. very not fun. But yeah, it's going to be a busy week coming up. Then a busy week after that. A lot of things to do. Really just not fun. I think I have an exam. I think I have 2 exams next week. Or do I just have 1? If there's an exam that I thought I had to do, and I don't remember when it was supposed to actually happen. So that's the thing. Is there a shot I missed it? Maybe. Who effing knows? But anyways, probably not. I really hope not. But I have a project that's going to be due, and then, yeah, it's just not going to be fun. So much to do if I want to get to that stupid effing wedding. But we'll do our best. We'll see what we can do. We'll see what happens. You're not going to notice anything because I'm never going to leave you hanging, and you'll always have some sort of pre-recorded episode to listen to. And worst comes to worst, I just go over there and use my effing iPhone to audio record the effing podcast, and your quality goes down to garbage. Who knows? Or I'll force them to pay for another Shure SM7B and Focusrite Scarlett over there. Who knows? That'd be wild. But yeah, that's all I got. Making this video longer is just going to make my life harder, so I will quickly end it here. Thank you so much for listening. Hit all the buttons, subscribe, share, blah, blah, blah. I much love. I don't use willpower, and I will see you or talk at you next week. Peace.